You ever hear something that you know shouldn't be there? Not in the "that's odd" sense. I mean the primal sense. The one that stirs something deep inside you that you didn't even know could stir. That's what happened to me in the fall of 2018, just outside Bell Creek, Pennsylvania, a town that barely clings to the map, mostly rusted cars, hollow-eyed houses, and fields that go on for what feels like forever. I wasn't supposed to stay long. My uncle had passed away suddenly, left me a cabin out by the old logging roads, and all I had to do was clear it out, sell it, and be gone. Seemed simple enough. It never is. The first night there, I realized something was off. The air felt too still, like a painting pretending to be real. Even the crickets were quiet, just a low hiss of the wind against dead corn stalks. I tried to brush it off. City nerves, maybe. I hadn't seen proper darkness in years. No streetlights, no neon buzz, just a black swallowing everything past the porch. Around 2 a.m., I woke up without knowing why. No noise, no dream. Just a snap, wide awake like someone had flipped a switch in my brain. And then I heard it, a voice, way off in the woods behind the cabin. It was distant at first, but sharp enough to carry through the air like a knife sliding through cloth. A woman's voice calling, "Help, please help me." The sound froze me in bed, not the words themselves, but the way they sounded. Too clear, too perfect, like someone playing a recording through a blown-out speaker. I pulled on my boots, grabbed my flashlight, and stepped outside. Everything in me said don't, but you have to understand. That voice didn't sound like a trick. It sounded like need, desperation. The woods loomed ahead, a tangled mess of bare trees and wild underbrush. I shined the beam around, catching nothing but fog and shadows. "Hello?" I called, my breath turning silver in the cold. "Where are you?" No answer at first. Then, "Over here." Closer, deeper in the trees. Still that same flat, blown-out sound. Like the voice didn't quite belong to the night around it. I hesitated, just for a second, and that second saved me. Because that's when I saw it. About 20 feet in, standing between two trees, was a figure. But not a woman. Not really. It looked built. Like something trying very hard to look human. Long hair, pale skin, bare feet. But everything was just a little wrong. Limbs too thin, mouth too wide, and eyes like pieces of black glass. It stood perfectly still. Not swaying, not shivering in the cold. Just waiting. My flashlight flickered once, then steadied. In that moment, the thing moved, but not forward. Up. It climbed the tree beside it like an insect. Fast and jerky, vanishing into branches overhead without a sound. I stumbled back toward the cabin, nearly tripping over my own feet. I didn't stop to look again. I didn't sleep the rest of the night either. The next day, I tried to rationalize it. Lack of sleep, the stress of the trip, maybe even a hallucination. Bell Creek had a way of pressing on your mind, like a heavy thumb against soft clay. But later that afternoon, when I drove into town to grab coffee, I made the mistake of asking about the woods. The woman behind the counter, mid-50s, weathered, the kind of face that looked like it had seen one too many winters, froze when I mentioned the voice. "You didn't follow it, did you?" she asked, voice dropping to a whisper. I told her no. Thank God. She nodded grimly and leaned in closer. "They call it the Hollow," she said. "Something's wrong there. Been wrong for generations. You hear a voice at night, you keep your door locked and your head down. You hear a knock, you don't answer, not even if it sounds like someone you know. I asked her what it was, but she just shook her head and muttered something that sounded like, "It wears your kindness like a mask." That night, I locked every door and window, drew the blinds tight, and kept the lights on. I didn't care how much the generator rattled and groaned. Darkness was an option, but the thing about Bell Creek is light doesn't keep everything out. And just after 3 a.m., the knocking started. The first knock was soft, almost polite, just a gentle tap, tap, tap at the front door. I froze in the middle of the living room, my body halfway between grabbing my phone and grabbing the old hunting rifle my uncle had kept over fireplace. 3 more knocks, louder this time. "Please," a voice said from the other side. "It's so cold. Let me in." My throat dried up. It was the same voice from the woods, except now it sounded exactly like my sister. Problem was, my sister lived 3 states away. She wasn't anywhere near Bell Creek. She wasn't here. She couldn't be here. The doorknob rattled, slow and methodical, as if whoever, whatever, was outside was just testing it, feeling for weakness. I edged back toward the hallway, keeping my eyes locked on the door. The locks were good, deadbolt, chain, and an old iron latch. Solid. I trusted them. Or, at least, I wanted to. The voice kept pleading. "Please, it's me. Open up. I'm scared." It was wrong. Just wrong enough that if you listened closely, you could hear the cracks. Like something trying too hard to sound human and forgetting all the tiny pieces that made us real. My phone had no signal. No surprise there, but I texted my sister anyway. "You okay? Where are you?" I didn't expect an answer. Not that late. Not in this dead zone. But 5 minutes later, her reply buzzed through. "At home." Why? At home. Hundreds of miles away. So whatever was outside, it wasn't her. I sat there, silent and still, watching the door as the knocking grew more frantic. Louder. Harder. The voice began to change, twisting into different tones. My mother's voice, my best friend's voice, even my own voice. Calling, pleading, demanding, "Let me in." Then, just as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. Dead silence. For a long time, I didn't move, didn't breathe too loudly. Just sat there, feeling every hair on my body standing straight up. And then something far worse happened. From the back hallway, the one that led to the bedrooms, I heard footsteps inside the house. Soft, slow, coming closer. I don't remember picking up the rifle. I don't remember chambering around. I just remember standing there, shaking, as the footsteps crept toward the living room. There was a mirror hanging on the wall by the hall entrance, an old one, tarnished with age. And in that mirror, I caught a glimpse of something stepping into view. It was me, but not me. The thing in the mirror wore my face, my clothes, even mimicked the way I stood, hunched and terrified. But its smile was wrong. Too wide, too many teeth. And its eyes, God, its eyes were nothing but dark, hollow pits. I didn't wait. I pulled the trigger. The rifle cracked like thunder, the recoil slamming into my shoulder. The mirror shattered, glass exploding across the room. And when I looked again, there was nothing there. No blood, no body, no sound of retreating footsteps. Just the broken pieces of glass glittering on the floor like a field of tiny knives. I left that night, packed a bag with shaking hands, grabbed my keys, and drove. Didn't care where. Didn't care if the sun wasn't up yet. I had to get out. The road back to town wound through the woods, narrow and twisting, barely wide enough for 2 cars to pass. As I drove, the headlights cut through the fog in long, sickly beams. Every so often, I'd catch glimpses of movement between the trees, something pacing me, just out of sight. I pressed the gas harder. The car shuddered and whined, but I didn't slow down. I didn't look into the woods. I didn't listen to the voices calling my name from the tree lean. When I finally reached the diner on the edge of Bell Creek, I barely remembered parking. I just stumbled inside like a half-drowned man reaching shore. The woman behind the counter, same one from before, took one look at me and paled. "Followed you, didn't it?" she whispered. I nodded. Couldn't even find my voice. She came around the counter, took my hand, and pressed a small iron charm into it. A crude little figure shaped like a stick man, all sharp angles and twisted wire. "Keep this on you," she said. "Don't listen to it. Don't look at it. And for God's sake, don't answer it." I asked her what it was, what it wanted. She just shook her head. "Bell Creek's a hollow place," she said. "Some things leak through, things that were never meant to be here. It wants you to invite it in. It wants you to believe it's something you love." She paused, looked toward the window, toward the black woods beyond. "And if you do, there's no getting you back." I didn't go back to the cabin. I didn't go back to Bell Creek. I drove until the sky turned gray and the fields gave way to highways, until my phone picked up service again and the world started to feel real. Only it wasn't real. Not anymore. That thing, whatever it was, had left its mark. The first few days back home were normal, I guess. As normal as they could be after something like that. I told myself it was over. That Bell Creek was behind me. And the thing was stuck there, like a tick buried too deep in the woods to follow me out. But denial only works when reality cooperates. And reality didn't. It started with the dreams. At first, just flashes, standing at the edge of a dark forest, hearing something breathing heavy in the trees, waking up drenched in sweat. Then came the calls, blocked numbers, static on the line, and faint, distant voices I couldn't quite make out, whispering things that twisted my stomach into knots. My sister called once, really called, to say she'd been having nightmares too. Same ones, same woods, same sense of something waiting just beyond the trees. She asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine. I lied. One night, about 2 weeks after I left Bell Creek, I was sitting in my apartment, scrolling through the TV without really watching, when there was a knock at the door. 3 knocks. Soft. Careful. My heart jammed itself into my throat. I looked through the peephole. Nobody there. Another knock. This time from the back door, the one that led to the fire escape. I live on the 3rd floor. There's no way anyone should have been there. And yet, when I crept toward the kitchen and peeked out the small glass window, I saw a figure standing on the other side. It was me again. Same clothes, same face, same dead, hollow eyes. "You left me," it said, voice muffled through the glass. "You left me there. Let me in." I stumbled back, heart pounding so hard I thought my ribs would crack. I grabbed the iron charm from my pocket, the little twisted stick man, and held it tight until the wires bit into my skin. The figure stared at me, smile stretching wider, until it split its face down the middle like a rotted pumpkin. Then, in the blink of an eye, it was gone. Just gone. After that night, I stopped sleeping. Stopped going outside unless I had to. Started seeing things in the corners of mirrors, hearing footsteps behind me in empty hallways. It was wearing me down, wearing me thin. I thought about calling someone. A priest, a psychic, anyone who might know what the hell I was dealing with. But somehow, deep down, I knew none of them could help. This thing wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a demon. It was something older, something patient. It could wait, and it was waiting for me to break. A month after Bell Creek, my sister came to visit. I didn't want her to, beg her not to, but she insisted. Said I needed company, needed help. The night she arrived, everything felt off. She looked like herself, sounded like herself, but there was something wrong in her eyes. A flicker, maybe, a depth that hadn't been there before. I tried to tell myself I was just being paranoid, that the fear was twisting everything, making me see monsters in people I loved. She made dinner. We talked, laughed even. For a little while, it almost felt normal, until I caught her watching me. Not in a casual way, not like a sister checking on her brother. Watching me, studying me, like a butcher watching livestock. That night, after she went to bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Around 2 a.m., I heard the creak of the floorboards outside my bedroom. Soft footsteps, slow and careful. I held my breath. Listen, the steps stopped right outside my door. And then, in a voice that wasn't quite hers, I heard, "Let me in." My hand tightened around the iron charm still sitting under my pillow. I didn't move, didn't speak. The doorknob rattled once, twice, and then silence. I didn't sleep, just stare at the door until morning light leaked in through the blinds. When I finally opened the door, there was nothing there. No sister. No sign anyone had stood outside. Just a small scrap of paper on the floor. I picked it up with shaking hands. Written in spidery handwriting, not mine, not hers, were 3 words. You invited it. For a long time, I just stood there, staring at that scrap of paper. You invited it. The words blurred and wavered as my mind tried, and failed, to make sense of them. I hadn't invited anything. I hadn't opened the door. I hadn't said yes or come in or any of the old tricks. I knew better. But the thing about invitation is, sometimes it's not a word. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's attention. Sometimes just noticing it is enough. And I had noticed it. I had listened. I had followed. I had cared. That was the crack it needed. And now the thing from Bell Creek wasn't stuck in the woods anymore. It was in me. It was with me. I packed a bag in 10 minutes flat. Essentials only. Clothes, flashlight, matches, the iron charm, and an old photograph of my sister and me when we were kids, back when things made sense. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. The city felt too full, too crowded, too easy for it to hide among the faces. I needed space, distance, somewhere would have a harder time finding skins to wear. So I drove north, toward the old mountains where self-service died, and the town shrank to nothing, toward the kind of places where if you screamed, no one would hear you. The first 2 nights were quiet. Too quiet. I slept in the car, hidden off dirt roads, engine cold. Windows cracked just enough to keep from fogging. No footsteps. No knocking. No voices. Just the endless sighing of the wind and the whisper of trees brushing against each other in the dark. I should have known it was only giving me space to hope again. That's how it worked. It fed on hope almost as much as it fed on fear. The 3rd night, I camped near an abandoned ranger station, miles from the nearest town. The building was a squat thing, leaning slightly to one side, roof caved in like a broken mouth. Still, it felt safer than the open road. At least it looked abandoned. I built a fire, sat with my back against a tree, iron charm wrapped tight around my wrist with a strip of cloth. I told myself I'd stay awake, told myself I'd keep watch. But exhaustion drags you down, even when you're afraid. Especially when you're afraid. Somewhere between one breath and the next, I fell asleep, and when I woke up, the fire was out. The woods were dead silent. Even the wind was holding its breath. And there, standing just beyond the dead embers of the fire, was a figure, not moving, not breathing, just waiting. It wore my sister's face again. This time she was crying. Huge, silent tears streaming down her cheeks, her arms outstretched toward me like a child begging to be held. "You left me," she whispered. "You left me there." I closed my eyes, pressed the iron charm so hard into my palm I felt skin tear. I didn't answer, didn't move. The thing sobbed once, a horrible, wet animal sound, and then rushed at me, faster than any human should be able to move. I stumbled back, tripping over the roots of the tree, heart hammering so hard it hurt. But when I looked again, nothing. Gone. The woods were empty. Only the smell of ash and something sweet, sickly, clung to the air, like rotting flowers left too long in water. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. As the first hint of dawn touched the sky, I stumbled into the wreck of the ranger station, desperate for shelter, even if just for a few hours. Inside, the air was damp and stale. Mice scurried away into holes. But it was empty. It was real, or so I thought. In the back of the station, I found an old radio, a relic from decades ago, crusted with rust, but somehow still intact. On impulse, I turned the dials. Static, then a voice, broken, distant, almost unintelligible. "You can't run." The room tilted. My hands went ice cold. "You can't hide." The radio's dial spun wildly on its own, a screeching metallic sound that tore into my skull. Then silence, dead silence. I yanked the batteries out of the radio, threw them across the room, heart clawing against my ribs. But the voice wasn't coming from the radio anymore. It was coming from inside the room. The voice was behind me, right behind me. "You left me," it whispered again. "But I found you." I turned, slow, so slow, feeling every muscle in my body scream not to. There it stood, not bothering with disguises anymore. Not my sister's face. Not my own. Just a thing, long-limbed, all angles, hunched low I could barely remember how to wear human shape. Its skin was ash gray, stretched tight over bones that jutted like knives. And its eyes, God, its eyes were pits, blacker than the space between stars, deeper than any grave. And they were hungry. I stumbled back, almost falling, the iron charm slipping from my wrist and clattering to the floor. The thing noticed, tilted its head in a terrible, bird-like motion. Then it smiled, not a human smile, a smile too wide, a smile that cracked its face like broken porcelain. "Come with me," it said, voice like rust and static and old, rotting things. "Come home." My mind splintered at the edges. A part of me wanted to run. A part of me wanted to scream. But another part, deeper, darker, wanted to listen, to go. It stepped closer, one dragging foot after another, leaving smears of black sludge where it walked. I reached for the charm, fingers scrabbling blindly across the dirty floor. Just as the thing lunged, I grabbed the iron figure, held it up between us like a shield. The thing recoiled, shrieking, a sound so sharp and raw it made my vision blur. Smoke poured from its skin where the charmed shadow touched it. For a moment, just a moment, I thought I had won. That's when the iron twisted in my hand, bent itself backward like soft wax, melted into useless scrap. The thing laughed, a wet, gurgling sound that filled the room, filled my skull, filled the world. "You belong to me now," it said. I ran, out the door, into the woods. Blind, desperate, branches tore at my skin. Roots grabbed at my ankles. But I kept running. Behind me, I could hear it, not running, not chasing, just walking. Slow, patient, knowing it would catch me. Because you can't outrun something that's inside you. I don't know how long I ran. Hours, maybe. Days. The world bled into a haze of trees and blood and breathless terror. Until finally, I stumbled into a clearing. The ground opened up into a hollow, a perfect circle, ringed by towering pines like blackened fingers. And at the center of the hollow, a door, standing upright, freestanding, old and rotted and pulsing with a faint, sickly light. The door I saw the first night in Bell Creek. Waiting, I fell to my knees, broken, defeated. Behind me, the thing stepped into clearing. I didn't need to turn to see it. I could feel it, a pressure in the air, a gravity pulling me down. "Come home," it whispered. The door creaked open. Blackness poured out, thick and syrupy, swallowing the ground, the trees, the stars. And somewhere, deep in that blackness, 1,000 voices called my name. Voices I recognized. Voices I loved. Voices that were dead and rotting and hungry. I wish I could tell you I fought, that I found some last shred of strength and turned away, that I lived. But I didn't. I got up. I walked toward the door. And as I crossed the threshold, the world behind me dissolved like smoke. If you're reading this, somehow, it means part of me made it through. Maybe the thing wearing my skin left us behind, like a snake shedding its old scales. Maybe it wants you to know. Maybe it wants you to listen. But if you ever hear a knock at your door, soft, polite, begging, don't open it. Don't answer it. Don't listen. Because once you notice it, once you care, you're already too late.